John, always great to talk to you.
It's always my pleasure, especially on a windy, rainy day.
And it is a lousy day, if I can say that.
Well, it's a good day in certain respects. I see that Congress has finally done something that I can approve of.
Yep, they couldn't go out to lunch, so they actually took action on something.
They did. They did on the Law Enforcement Officers Safety Act
Right, and you
improvements.
you are a retired police captain. This has got to be good news. I got to ask you, long overdue, don't you think?
I think it is because this bill really does deal with several of the issues that the last bill, quite frankly, didn't get right. It recognizes the fact that sometimes law enforcement officers move from department to department. It also recognizes the fact that not every police officer that serves 30 years or 25 years or 20 years or whatever magic number you want to put on it actually gets retirement benefits. And if they do get retirement benefits, they're not necessarily the kind of retirement benefits that most people think of. So, and this bill addresses that. It addresses the reality out there in law enforcement that may not be the reality in the big cities of the East and West Coast, and addresses what reality is in the hinterland, so to speak, in the small towns and the counties where, quite frankly, most of the law enforcement officers really work.
And it addresses the issue, which I think is so important too, about law enforcement officers retired being able to carry a firearm.
And that's important in a number of different ways. First of all, I hate to say it, once a cop, always a cop.
Once a Marine, always a Marine.
Yeah,
Right?
and no matter how long you're out of it, your training is always there. You always see things a little differently than the civilian population does, and quite frankly, you do see trouble coming. And in this post 9/11 atmosphere that we live in, I will guarantee you that somewhere along the line there's going to be a law enforcement officer who sees somebody who, quite frankly, raises the hair on the back of their neck. And if I'm with my family, I want to be able to protect my family. But more importantly, if that person actually is a terrorist and begins a terrorist act, if I have the right to carry, not just in my home state, but while I'm traveling, I could, if I needed to, stop that terrorist act.
And my gosh, they've committed their lives to it. Why not in retirement? That's what I say. And when you look at the budget cuts and the cutbacks,
Well,
so,
look at my situation. I'm in little old Delaware. In 15 minutes, I can be in Maryland. In 45 minutes, I can be in Pennsylvania. In 50 minutes, I can be in New Jersey. How many folks do you suppose I've arrested and put in prison over the years for rather heinous crimes who would just as soon, if they ran across me in their hometown while I'm traveling, like to get just a little bit of revenge? We all live with that. All of us who've worn the badge and who have, especially those of us that have done criminal investigations and those type of things. We know we put these guys in jail, these bad guys in jail, but we also know that eventually they're going to get out.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, most of them will get out after we're retired.
Yeah.
And we may not even know they're on the street.
That's a real good point, but also the point I was, making is too that, you look at the cutbacks, officers being laid off. My gosh, what better than to have a retired officer as extra eyes and ears and manpower actually on the streets?
Sure. And nobody's suggesting that retired officers should be out there and be a vigilante force or anything like that. But a retired officer who happens to be exercising his Second Amendment right, his or her Second Amendment rights to keep and bear arms, who is carrying, who is qualified to carry, who happens to be going into the store when the robbery goes down. Yeah,
no doubt about it.
That officer, that retired officer. That laid-off officer, if you will, may in fact be able to save someone's life.
John, have you ever had a retired officer or yourself been in a close call and said, hey, you know what? I wish I had my gun on me?
I've probably about 3 or 4 months ago, I was coming around the corner. I had just come out of a store and was walking down the street and ran face-to-face into a guy that I thought was still in jail.
Wow.
He posed no threat to me, but it came as a surprise, and guess where my hand went first thing? And it wasn't there.
Yeah, no kidding. My gosh. And like they never forget. It's
No,
amazing.
no, they don't forget.
And as you
he
said, the revenge is there, alive and well.
And he remembered me. I can guarantee you that. But luckily, that one turned out okay, and the fact that I wasn't armed on that particular occasion was of no moment. But it does happen, and anybody who's been in the business any period of time, it will tell you that it happens more frequently than you might realize.
And we all benefit from having them out there.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, but President Obama still has to sign it. I doubt he'll have any problem signing this one.
But I hope not.
Me too.
Because this goes to the heart and soul of trusting the people that you have relied upon for so long. This is a trust issue. It's trusting the people who've raised their hand, sworn an oath, and have done a very difficult job for a period of time. You either trust them now, or maybe you shouldn't have trusted them to begin with. And I think it's a trust issue. And my hat is off to Senators Leahy, Kyle, Sessions, and Conrad for their shepherding this through, and for Congressman Forbes and Boucher for the job that they did in the House. Now it's up to the president to do his job. And I call upon President Barack Obama to sign this legislation on behalf of all of the law enforcement officers of this country.
And that's a real good point you make about the trust issue. It really is, because that's what it's all about. You're right. But before I let you go, I got to ask you, because I heard this story and I thought, here we go again. What else are they going to think of? There's a coalition of mayors, Mexican mayors, blaming the U.S. once again. We're escalating violence on their side of the border because we're deporting illegal immigrants who have been convicted of everything from murder to rape in our country.
Well, that's just about as ridiculous as trying to blame us for their corruption within their political system because we won't allow their politicians to run in our elections. I mean, it's ridiculous, Jenny, and every day that passes, these folks down there find more and more reasons to hate America when, in fact, they should be glad that we're north of their border.
You know, and one critic was calling it actually perverse. I mean, what about what happened to Mexico's responsibility? Obviously, nobody wants these guys. Why should we have to keep them?
Why should our taxpayers?
The worst of the worst.
Why should our taxpayers pay for these guys when we can deport them back to Mexico?
Yeah.
The logic seems to be the socialist logic of it's anybody's fault but mine, and because you're bigger and richer than I am, I'm going to blame you.
It's unbelievable. You know, you just had another mayor stoned to death. You have many of the mayors who Mexican mayors now living in the U.S. on the borders because they're too afraid. I mean, when you look at Mexico, you think it's in a state of collapse?
I don't know it well enough to be able to comment on that, Jenny, but from little old Dover, Delaware, watching the evening news on Fox, it sure does look like it.
Yeah, it's not good. All righty. Well, John, always good to talk to you, and we'll be talking to you as the election approaches because there's a lot at stake for gun owners coming up November.
Oh, yes, and not just at the federal level. I hope everyone understands that this is a reapportionment year, and at least it is here in Delaware, and I think it is everywhere else, and the balance of power is at stake. It's time for everyone to not just get out and vote, but get out and support pro-gun candidates all up and down the ticket, especially in your hometown.